Howdy, folks. I am Alan for today's news. I will be reading and speaking about world news, interesting news, news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. First thing I got from you is Fox News. Biden's White House spocks implicated in effort to discredit Hunter Biden laptop.
President Biden's White House Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates has been implicated in the effort to discredit Hunter Biden's laptop as Russian disinformation during the 2020 presidential election, according to emails published by House Oversight Committee Republicans on Wednesday. According to House Oversight Committee Republicans' report Wednesday, former CIA senior advisor Nick Shapiro drafted a media pitch for the now discredited letter signed by 51 former intelligence officials that tried to paint the laptop at the center of the New York Post's bombshell story as a Russian operation in October 2020. "Giving this to you exclusively first if you guys want to run with it," Shapiro wrote in his pitch to the media outlets, according to the email on October 19, 2020. "You can also use this on the record from me, Nick Shapiro, describing what this is: a large group of former career intelligence officers, many specializing in Russia, joined by a group of former intelligence community leaders, are all saying that they believe the Russians were somehow involved here. The ICE leaders who have signed this letter worked for the past 4 presidents, including Trump," Shapiro's statement continued. "The real power here, however, is the number of former, working-level IC officers, who won the American people to know that once again the Russians are interfering." Nancy Mace tells DOJ to "get off its A and investigate President Biden." According to the GOP's report, Shapiro shopped the letter to the Associated Press, the Washington Post and Politico. He then forwarded the letter to Bates of the Biden campaign, adding, "This is what I gave them."
Yeah, let's see. Let me start here. No, there's more to read on that if you want to read the rest of it. Let me go to the next one here. This one from Giant Freaking Robot. The biggest luxury department store going out of business forever.
Luxury department store chain Nordstrom will be shuttering a total of 15 stores throughout North America this year. This includes locations housed under its sister brand Nordstrom Rack. The majority of closures will take place in Canada, with 13 branches going out of business. The move, which affects 6 flagship stores and 7 Nordstrom Rack outlets, will leave 2,500 people without work. The closures are expected to be finalized by the end of June. By comparison, only 2 stores will be closing in the United States. According to Cleveland.com, both shops are located in San Francisco, California. The Nordstrom Rack will close its doors on July 1st, while the Nordstrom outlet closes at the end of August. Nordstrom confirmed the closures in an email to employees, which said, "The dynamics of the downtown San Francisco market have changed dramatically over the past several years, impacting customer foot traffic to our stores and our ability to operate successfully." As such, the chief stores officer said the company had no choice but to shutter 15 stores. Headquartered in Washington, Nordstrom was founded by John W. Nordstrom and Carl F. Wallen. The pair opened their first store, Wallen and Nordstrom, in Seattle in 1901. The business began as a shoe store and grew over the years. In 1923, the duo added a second store in Seattle's University District. Nordstrom ventured into women's clothing in 1963 with the purchase of Best Apparel. In 1971, the company went public and was formally renamed Nordstrom Incorporated. 2 years later, annual sales surpassed $100 million, and the retail chain was recognized as the West Coast's largest volume fashion specialty store. The first Nordstrom Rack opened in 1973. It served as a clearance outlet for the full-line stores.
And let's see, there's more to read on that if you want to read the rest of it, not a whole lot more. And let me go to the next one here. This one here from 1945. Something is wrong. Video shows Russian T72 tank destroyed in Ukraine.
This week, Ukraine Weapons Tracker published footage depicting the destruction of a Russian T-72B3 main battle tank (MBT) near Donetsk Oblast. In the video, a lone armored vehicle appears to be traversing across a field when it suddenly erupts in fumes of smoke. According to the Twitter handle, the MBT was taken out by the Ukrainian 56th Motorized Brigade after running over an anti-tank mine. Interestingly, the tank did not appear to have backup and was traveling alone, making it an easy target. Russia's stockpile of MBTs have not fared well throughout the last 14+ months of warfare in Ukraine. According to Oryx, Russia lost roughly 1,200 T-72 tanks in the first 12 months of the conflict. Some of these MBTs were destroyed by Ukrainian projectiles, others were left behind by ill-equipped Russian troops or captured. A brief overview of the T-72 MBT. Since its introduction nearly 50 years ago, the T-72 MBT has remained a mainstay of the Russian military. The tank was first produced in 1970 by the former USSR to effectively counter the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Over the years, the T-72 became widely exported. More than 30 countries procured roughly 18,000 vehicles prior to the collapse of the Soviet Union. According to the Tank Museum at Bovington Camp in southwest England's Dorset County, the T-72 is the most widely used main battle tank in the world. It has been manufactured in 6 countries, is in service with the armies of 35 nations and has fought in all the major wars of the last 20 years.
And there's more to read about it if you want to read about it. Let me go to the next one here. It's from CNN. These states will be hit the hardest if the U.S. debt ceiling standoff isn't resolved.
As leaders in Washington fail to make progress on a debt ceiling deal, Moody's Analytics is warning of disastrous implications for American jobs if the United States defaults on its debt for an extended period. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has forecast that the United States could run out of cash and extraordinary measures to pay its bills as soon as early June if Congress does not act. While most states would be hit hard by a debt limit breach, the economic pain would vary from state to state, according to projections released on Wednesday by Moody's. It would disproportionately hurt states with large concentrations of federal workers or that have a number of jobs that rely on government funding. That includes Washington, D.C., and states located near or that rely on federal institutions such as national labs or military bases such as Alaska, Hawaii, and New Mexico. Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania would also likely lose hundreds of thousands of jobs apiece if there is a breach of the debt ceiling lasting several months, the Economic Research Group found. Federal workers are not likely to lose their jobs in the event of a breach, unlike a government shutdown, where non-essential federal employees could be furloughed temporarily. But federal workers and the military may face delays in receiving their paychecks. Federal contractors may also not be paid on time, and that could affect their ability to compensate and employ their workers. Soaring unemployment. The analysis spells out other widespread damage. The unemployment rate would spike to near double digits in the District of Columbia, 8.9%, California, 8.7%, and Ohio, 9.5%. Michigan's unemployment rate would reach 10.8%, up from 4.1% today. Other states that would feel significant impact are ones that rely on federal spending in aerospace, such as Virginia, Connecticut, Kansas, and Washington. Moody's said tourism-dependent states including Arizona, Florida, and Nevada will eventually experience sharp job loss as well those that rely on auto manufacturing, like Michigan and South Carolina. In the event of a prolonged breach of the debt ceiling, Moody's estimates some large states would each lose hundreds of thousands of jobs. California could lose 841,600. Texas may lose 561,700. The report predicts Florida would lose 474,700 jobs, New York could shed 398,300, and Ohio, Pennsylvania and Georgia would each lose more than 200,000. A real threat. In its report, Moody's assigns a 10% probability to a breach of the debt ceiling, up from 5% previously. What once seemed unimaginable now seems a real threat, Moody's Analytics chief economist Mark Zandi wrote in the report. A breach is not the same thing as a default. In an email to CNN, Zandi explained that a breach would occur if the Treasury Department fails to make a payment to any creditor on time, whether that be a Social Security recipient or the electric bill for a government building in Omaha. A default would only occur if Treasury fails to make a debt payment on time, Zandi said. In the report, Zandi wrote that if there is a breach, it would be much more likely to be a short one than a prolonged one, though even a lengthy standoff no longer has a zero probability. The new warning from Moody's comes a day after a meeting on Tuesday between President Joe Biden and congressional leaders ended without any progress on a debt ceiling deal. Zandi noted that although there are some emerging signs of concern in financial markets, for the most part investors appear largely unruffled by the estimated June 1 deadline. The longer it takes for financial markets to react, Zandi wrote, the greater the odds that lawmakers will not act in time, since market turmoil is probably what it will take to generate the political will lawmakers will need to come to terms.
Okay, and that's all I got on that one. The links to everything that I'll be showing here will be in my description box. Let's go on to the next one here. It's from 1945. Putin just showed how the Russian military is dying in Ukraine.
This week, Russia celebrated its annual Victory Day parade, an event meant to celebrate the former Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. The public holiday is arguably one of the most significant holidays in Russia as it represents a central component of the country's modern identity. Typically, Russia's President Vladimir Putin addresses the public during the military parade as countless soldiers, weapons, and equipment traverse through the Red Square. This year's celebration, however, was strikingly different from past years. Specifically, only one Soviet-era main battle tank, MBT, took part in the parade's procession. The lone T-72 accompanied a mere 8,000 soldiers in the smallest Victory Day parade to take place in over 15 years. Comparably, even at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, roughly 13,000 soldiers participated in the procession. In addition to the noticeable lack of troops and tanks was the absence of fighter jets. Where are Russia's MBTs? Like many of Moscow's airframes, its fleet of MBTs has sharply declined since the outbreak of the Ukraine invasion. The few remaining tanks that Russia currently maintains are likely at the front lines of the battlefield. Oryx, an open-source intelligence platform that is widely cited by industry experts, predicts that Moscow is losing approximately 150 MBTs a month in Ukraine. The International Institute for Strategic Studies estimates that Russia has lost half of its more modern T-72 tanks since the onset of the war, in addition to nearly two-thirds of its T-80 stockpile. Significantly, Russia's top-of-the-line T-14 Armata MBT was also missing from action in this year's Victory Day parade. This purported deadly tank has been overhyped by the Kremlin but has yet to be seen partaking in combat in Ukraine. Moscow is turning to storage to replenish its tank fleets. In fact, so many of Russia's premier MBTs have been destroyed, captured, or simply left behind by ill-equipped troops that the Kremlin has turned to its arsenal of antiquated weapons to fulfill its war needs. Due in part to the wrath of economic sanctions North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, members have imposed, Moscow has also been unable to replace lost tanks with new ones. Last month, a photo circulated on social media depicting Soviet-era T-55 MBTs making their way through Ukraine. While this aging armored vehicle has undergone several enhancements over the years, the variants seen in Kiev appear to have not been upgraded.
Yeah, that's all. There's a little more to read on that if you want to read it. I'm going to go to my next one now. That's one here from Business Insider. Dollar General's troubles have snowballed into cluttered aisles and stores forced to close by fire marshals. Employees tell us what went wrong.
Dollar General workers say their hours have been cut, creating a mess of merchandise at stores. A shortage of person power makes it tough to unpack new merchandise and update inventory. Dollar General has grown to over 19,000 stores and is often the only retailer in some small towns. It was Christmas in May in the back room of a Michigan Dollar General last year. 2 metal carts of Christmas toys left over from the previous holiday season sat in the store's back room well into 2022. The plan, according to one employee who works at the store, was to hold the inventory there for a year until the next holiday season came around. "We're almost used as an extension of the warehouse," an employee at the store said. Full screen. Current and former employees who spoke to Insider say clutter at Dollar General stores has gotten worse over the last few years. They've said staffing issues, including cut hours and poor wages, are at least partially to blame because employees must choose between helping customers and stocking shelves. At locations from Louisiana to Maine, stacks of unpacked candy, toilet paper, barbecue sauce, and pet food have attracted attention from local fire marshals, who have ordered some stores to close when the clutter blocks exits or access to fire extinguishers, Insider previously reported. The clutter is one of the reasons that the Department of Labor labeled Dollar General a severe violator in March. The chain has racked up more than $15 million in fines from the Occupational Safety and Health Administration and is in early talks with the federal government over a settlement, the New York Times reported in March. A spokesperson for Dollar General said, "Our goal is to provide stores with the resources they need, including the appropriate labor budgets, to support our expectations of a clean, well-stocked shopping environment as well as excellent customer service." Insider spoke with 4 current and 2 former Dollar General employees. They declined to be identified by name in this article for fear of professional consequences. Their identities are known to Insider. Dollar General has reduced worker hours at many stores, leaving employees to choose between helping customers and stocking shelves. An employee in Michigan said the hour cut started about a year ago. Another in the Midwest said their store cut their hours, along with others at their store and in their district, at the start of 2023. For most people, it takes away needed hours and needed money, the employee told Insider. And those lost hours leave Dollar General stores understaffed and cultured, the employee added.
Now, they've been having a Dollar General store about a mile from where I live, and they just opened a new one up about 5 miles from where I live. They're having all these trouble. Why are they opening these stores up? To use them as warehouses and stores? I don't know. Let's go to the next one here. This one from NBC News. FBI declined to provide House Chairman with document he claims will implicate Biden in criminal scheme.
The FBI on Wednesday rejected a request from House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer to provide access to sensitive law enforcement materials that some congressional Republicans insist will reveal criminal activity involving Joe Biden from when he was vice president. Comer, Republican Kentucky, along with Republican Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa, had initially requested the materials in a May 3 letter to the FBI, citing what they called highly credible unclassified whistleblower disclosures regarding an unclassified document detailing an alleged criminal scheme involving then Vice President Biden and a foreign national relating to the exchange of money for policy decisions. In his subpoena, Comer demanded that the FBI produce what are known as FD 1023 forms, records of interactions with confidential sources, created or modified in June 2020 containing the term Biden, along with any accompanying attachments or other documents. The FBI responded on Wednesday, with Christopher Dunham, acting assistant director for the Bureau's Office of Congressional Affairs, saying in a letter that while the FBI was committed to beginning the constitutionally mandated accommodation process, it was also bound by Justice Department policy which strictly limits when and how confidential human source information can be provided outside of the FBI. Often, even confirming the fact of the existence, or non-existence, of an investigation or a particular piece of investigative information can risk these serious harms, Dunham wrote, adding that it was standard practice for law enforcement agencies to decline to confirm or deny such facts. Comer blasted the FBI's response. It's clear from the FBI's response that the unclassified record the Oversight Committee subpoenaed exists, but they are refusing to provide it to the committee, he said in a statement. We've asked the FBI to not only provide this record, but to also inform us what it did to investigate these allegations. The FBI has failed to do both. Grassley, meanwhile, insisted that the FBI's offer to provide an accommodation process in response to our legitimate request indicates the document is real. When reached for comment, an FBI spokesperson said the report requested by Comer's committee is used by FBI agents to record unverified reporting by a confidential human source.
Okay, and there's more to read on that one there, not a whole lot more. I'm going to go into it. Let's put it next one now. This is from Fox News. Biden had multiple explosions as staff over his excuses for inaction at the border.
President Biden reportedly exploded several times over what he believed were excuses from his team for inaction at the southern border, according to a Washington Post story on Wednesday. As the pandemic-era immigration restriction policy Title 42 is set to expire, the outlet reported that Biden got upset with his aides over what to do about the border crisis. When Biden would have explosions, and he did have a bunch of them, he'd say, you haven't told me anything different from what you told me last week, a former official, who remained anonymous, told the Washington Post. Then 10 minutes later, he'd say, look, I'm sorry, I know everybody is trying, the official continued, according to the Post. El Paso migrant shelters prepare for influx of people as Title 42 set to expire. Leon Panetta, former Obama defense secretary, a member of the Department of Homeland Security's Advisory Council, told the outlet that he was not sure the administration was ready for the end of Title 42.
Okay, and there's more to read on that if you want to read the rest of it. I'm going to go on to the next one now. This is from Fox Business. Secret campaigns use thousands of New Yorkers' identities without consent to influence federal policy.
Some of the nation's largest broadband companies funded a secret campaign that used identities of millions of consumers without their consent to generate fake public comments and ultimately convinced the federal government to repeal net neutrality in 2017, the New York Attorney General's office said Wednesday, announcing a $615,000 settlement. New York Attorney General Letitia James on Wednesday secured $615,000 from three companies, LCX, Lead ID and Efficient, that her office found supplied millions of fake public comments to influence a 2017 proceeding by the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, to repeal net neutrality rules. Net neutrality prohibits broadband providers from blocking, slowing down or charging companies to prioritize certain content on the Internet. An investigation by the Office of the Attorney General, OAG, found that the fake comments used the identities of millions of consumers, including thousands of New Yorkers, without their knowledge or consent. GOP lobbyists push extension of net neutrality principles to big tech. Collectively, the three companies have agreed to pay $615,000 in penalties. This is the second series of agreements secured by James with companies that supplied fake comments to the FCC.
Okay, and there's more to read on that if you want to read the rest of it. Let me go to my last one here. It's from the Washington Examiner. Hugo Gordon breaks down why the media won't report on Hunter Biden.
The Washington Examiner's Hugo Gordon blasted mainstream media outlets for their bias in favor of President Joe Biden. Gordon appeared on Fox News' Varney and Company Thursday to question why outlets opt out of publishing stories surrounding Hunter Biden. Meanwhile, those who try, notably a reporter from the New York Post who asked many questions about the president's second-born son, are punished by being excluded from White House press events. The editor-in-chief suggested the lack of coverage is tied to a culpable incuriosity by members of the media. Level the playing field for independent media. The news media is on the side of Democrats and will try to distort things, Gordon said. Whether this is, in the long term, sure, the media want to help Democrats win elections, so you could say it is election interference. I think I would put it somewhat lower than that and say it's part of the constant undertow of bias in most of the media. When it comes to the White House's new dictum announced Friday, which promised that reporters who do not act in a professional manner will be expelled, Gordon raised a red flag. The announcement appeared to be an issue that directly affects the First Amendment right to a free press. There is always the danger reporters will sort of act up and not be professional, but there's an equal danger, at least, that the administration will decide reporters are asking awkward questions and somehow not acting professionally, Gordon said. He pointed out that poll after poll has demonstrated that the American public is interested in issues that the Biden administration has struggled to address, such as the economy and immigration.
So I got on that one there. And it said the news media is on the side of the Democrats and will try to distort things. Not this media here, not me. I want the truth to be out as I can see it, find it. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Remember, I am Alan for today's news. I will be reading, speaking about world news, interesting news, news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. And don't forget to like, subscribe, at least come back once in a while. And I thank you for watching. Later.